afternoon. It is 12:30 Eastern Time here in the United States. Where are you watching from? I would love to know where you're tuning in from. Are you watching from the United States? If so, what state? And if you're outside of the US, what country? I love hearing from our listeners from all over the world. So let us know where you are. This is a really special topic today because I feel like on social media, you kind of see one side to a person. You see the happy side where people are succeeding, they're getting all of this awesome stuff happening in their life. You see pictures of people on beaches and with dream homes and smiling kids, but rarely do you see the failures that happened before all of those successes took place. Because guess what, everybody? We've all had them. And my special guest today, Christie Ellis, has had an enormous failure and she wants to tell you about it. But guys, she went from 7 figures to losing it all. And it's so inspirational because now she's even more successful. And you know what? If she would have given up, no one would have faulted her for it. People would have said, oh, it's okay to fail. Just do something easier next time. But she didn't. She kept persevering and she rose from the ashes like a phoenix. My girl, Christie Ellis, tell us about 7 figures to failure and how it happened. Let's inspire some people today.
Well, hi. I'm so happy to be your poster child for failure. No, this was definitely a huge failure of mine, and I had many more after this. I'm sure there will be many more in the future.
Yep.
And so, I think my story about failure, if there's anything I hope people take away from it, it would be that I hope that they have a different relationship with failure, what it is, so that they can think about it differently and grow resilient and create their own unique successes more easily, after failure.
Yes, absolutely. So take us through this 7 figures.
Yeah.
What happened? I just want to know. I think everybody does. And by the way, we've got Cynthia, my girl Cynthia is coming in from
Hi,
Cocoa,
Cynthia.
Florida. Hello, Cynthia. And as Christie's talking to you guys, feel free to chime in. Comments. If you have any questions for Christie, throw them down. Let's see.
Yeah, I am an open book. That's what this is for, because we learn by seeing others actually be honest about what they've gone through. So I'm happy to be here to do that with you all today. So, the short story about me is that when I started my first business, I was in my early 20s. Prior to that, I had been a somewhat successful actress in film and on TV commercials, that kind of stuff. Nothing big, nothing anybody would have known me from or anything, but I worked. And I really didn't plan on becoming an entrepreneur. So when I started my business, I really did it from inside green rooms on a set at ABC. I was the lowest man on the totem pole there. So I would sit in this green room for over 12 hours a day in the basement before cell phones. It was a very boring time. Yeah. And that's really how I started my business. I started it because I had a passion for pet health. That's what the business was in. And I just read everything I could get my hands on. And before I knew it, somebody offered to pay me for what I was doing. It was a big surprise to me, but I do come from an entrepreneurial family. So it was like a little lightning flash of, oh, I think that's what I'm supposed to be doing, because this is really boring in the basement for 12 hours. Definitely not the great artist experience that I thought I, was going to have as a working actress. So because of that background, what I didn't have was any experience with what you might need to run a business, number one. Wow. Things like, this was a food business, things like how to cost a product. Just anything in that category. Just know that I did not have that skill set. I was also really young. I was in my 20s, early 20s. And so I didn't have a strong network of people that I could reach out to that were perhaps good or experienced at the things that I was not. And I think, the main thing is that this is something that I see entrepreneurs do wrong so much, just so frequently, is they have a great idea, like I had that great idea, but what they don't do is they don't know how to walk it through to what life will be like if they succeed. Because the reality for me was walking through creating that successful business made me absolutely miserable. I think I talked to you a little bit about how the day that I was on the Today Show, I was actually crying in the shower before I went to set that day, which is like, people are like, what? Isn't this the best moment of your life? No, it was not. It was a day where I was so convinced I was a failure and I felt so trapped
Wow.
in business and I didn't know how to get out because I had what looked like success. But I was, as example, there was a 36-hour period every week where I worked straight through once a week.
Wow.
Hours. Yeah. And then I would take a nap for 4 hours and then I would wake up and I would start fulfilling orders again. So I was in a really unmanageable situation. And so what I see that entrepreneurs don't do is think about the end and the beginning. If you want to be a public speaker, for example, but you don't want to travel, perhaps you don't really want to be a public speaker. Maybe what you want to do is be an educator and you want to find a way to fulfill your idea in a way that will make sense for your life. So, what happened for me is all of those things compiled. And this was back in the early 2000s. I've now been an entrepreneur and a business grower for over 20 years. And this was 2007. And the combination of a schedule that did not meet my physical or mental needs, not having the experience to understand how to change with inflationary times like we're having again today, and not having a network of other professionals that could support me in the needs that I lacked. That was a really deadly combination, and it resulted ultimately in my closing that business.
Wow. From 7 figures to failure. You guys heard it.
Yeah.
So
And I
it's
was so successful, national TV. I was on a lot of different shows. I was in newspapers constantly across the country. I owned a 2-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side overlooking the Hudson. I looked so amazing. But the reality was that girl in the shower that felt trapped, didn't know what to do, and didn't know how to find my way out.
So it wasn't the life you wanted to live. You were kind of living
No.
someone else's version of success or someone else's dream. And I'm really passionate about that. That's usually one of the first questions I ask when I work with clients. What does success look like to you? Because it looks different for everybody. And just like you said, if you think you want to be a public speaker, but you don't like traveling, maybe you need to be an educator in the online space, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, one of the things I like to talk about with my clients and with my students is really get to their, like, what is the why? Like, when you tell me what your wish is, right? Like, when you tell me your big goal of, I want to own, this business, or I want to make this amount of money, or I want to get married, whatever the goal is, it really doesn't matter. But when I ask you why, if you can't give me a great answer as to why, what I know is that you have the wrong goal. You have something that you like, but we've not yet figured out what's the container for that wish so that it makes sense. And it's very easy. I like to talk about salary with that. It's an easy one for people to grasp. If somebody comes to me and says, I want to make $100,000. And I ask them why. And if their answer is just because I want to make, it's a lot of money. I want to make, it's like, no. Like, what are you thinking that's going to achieve for you? Are you thinking if you have that money, you're going to have achieved financial safety? Are you thinking at that level, you're going to be able to create a home you love? Are you thinking, this is going to be a level of power or a level of respect? What is it? because just because you have a goal doesn't mean you have the right strategy to get there. And that's one of the things that gets us confused between success and failure all the time is we may have a great wish or a great goal, but man, our strategy stinks. And we take it personally and believe that the failure is about our self-worth instead of about a bad strategy.
Pause. Honestly, pause, because literally, I hope everybody that's watching this is taking notes. So often, everybody fails. I fail all the time. And you know what? I proudly admit my failures, and I share them as often or more as I do successes, partially due to because there's more failures than successes in general for most people. It's great content, by the way. But here's the thing about failure. If you don't fail, you don't learn. If you didn't fail at that 7-figure business, would you be 8 figures today?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no
Absolutely
way.
not. Nope.
And you know what? I want to let me reposition failure for all of us. And to do that, I'm going to take a really weird step.
I love it. Let's
I'm
hear
going
it.
to ask us to think back 100 years. And if you think about, and the reason I say 100 years ago is around 1920, is around the time that public schools really became a thing, where students in the US were required to attend school. And so I look at that point in time because it's where our learning and what we thought of as learning really changed dramatically. Because prior to that time, and I'm sure around the world, it's probably a similar timeline. I just don't know yours. I'm American. That's how,
Yep.
There we go. But if you look 100 years ago, most families were agrarian. You know, they were some sort of farmer, they were homesteaders, whatever. That was largely the way the population lived. And so we saw many fewer people. We had much less exposure. We had much less time of exposure. And what that meant was we had to be fiercely independent and we had to understand how to solve our own problems. And so if you can imagine 100 years ago, you're in a field, you're plowing, and your plow breaks. You don't know how to fix it. You don't have any tools with you. All you know is that if you are going to eat this winter, you must figure out how to plow and you need to do it right now. So you have a lot of urgency, a very important goal.
Yeah.
So the way you're going to go about that is you're just going to start trying things. And you're probably going to fail several times before you figure out a way to make that plow work again. And that was normal. There was no feelings of, I stink, I don't know how to fix plows, I'm a bad person,
I'm worthless.
Right? All of those were failures, but none of them were taken personally. It was just seen as, that's just part of the learning process to figure out how to succeed. But if we look at that moment in time where school became something that was compulsory, what happened is we defined success in one very narrow and specific way. And it was getting 100 on whatever the assignment was at the time. And if you did not make 100 on the assignment, and if you did not make 100 on all of the assignments, you somehow failed. And we've just continued to duplicate that, you know, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, graduate school, doctoral, on into the workplace. We have this idea of success as being just a constant process of win, 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 win. But it's actually fail, 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 win, fail. And when you get that, you can start to see that the failures are just about bad strategies. You just haven't found the right one. It has nothing to do with you, how smart you are, how valuable you are, how hardworking you are, how nice you are, how much people like you. It's none of those things. It's just not the right strategy.
Wow.
So all of the stuff going on in your head about what failure means is just nonsense. And this is a really powerful way to start to reposition that for yourself. Because when you fail, we think all those things. You know, my two most common are I'm not enough and people don't like me. Those are the two thinking traps my brain likes to throw at me.
Yeah.
But I know they're coming, so I know how to manage them.
See, there we go. And that's so powerful because it literally happens to everyone. There's no one that is above these limiting beliefs and the self doubt. We all have them, they
Yeah,
creep in. It's inevitable.
absolutely.
It's a part of what? Being human. So, that's why it's so powerful to share your failures, especially in public and build in public. And it's scary. Building in public is terrifying. I failed this year earlier and I share it openly. I've shared on podcasts all over because you know what? It helped me realize that that wasn't the road I needed to be on. That wasn't the true path. So
Yeah,
if I would have continued on that path, I would have failed even larger in a much bigger way and would have probably been miserable. So it was probably good that I failed at that time. And, at the time it was horrible. It stunk. I
yeah,
thought, oh my gosh, I'm failing. I'm worthless. All of these things, right? I must not be smart enough. I must not be good enough. And that's just ridiculous, right?
yeah,
So we all have these feelings and we all have these emotions that come up when we do fail. But you hit on something so key. You keep referring to a word, strategy.
yeah.
Strategy. Let me pick your brain about strategy, Chrissy. What it
Okay.
means to you, because I want people to watch this show who are failing. And I want to give
Yeah,
them some kind of tool to walk away today. Strategy sounds like it is, so that
yeah.
they don't feel like they're failing tomorrow. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Love it. So I would love to walk you through, like, I have some thoughts that I believe when you fail, this is a great way to just step by step walk through your failures so that before you know it, you're out of it and you're back on the road to success. And the first one is I really think it's important, once you understand what failure is, right? 'Cause if you don't know what it is, it's going to be hard to find any thoughts that are accessible to sort of give yourself a lift out of that experience. But the next thing to do is just take some time to mourn the failure.
Mm.
It's so understandable that when we have some negative emotions and when we feel our self-esteem's taken a hit or when we're disappointed about something we really wanted, to just sort of gloss over it or to try not to feel those feelings. But I find that actually mourning the failure is a really important piece. I teach joyful life design, but that doesn't mean that we're joyful all the time. It means that we are strong enough to allow for our bad emotions too. Because when we can process them and allow them to be, we're able to move through them instead of kind of tap dancing around them all the time without ever really showing them the door. So, mourning that failure, and it may sound silly, but a business or a career path or whatever it is that you've failed at, it was probably important to you. And it's totally normal and okay to be sad about that and to just let yourself be a little sad or a lot sad, as long as you need. So that's the first thing.
That's
And
good. I like that.
yeah, and I think once you've done that, like the steps to take to start to get out of it. Number one, like what you said, we need to talk about the failure. And this isn't because you need to broadcast and just tell everybody, I failed, I failed. It's not about that.
Right.
But what happens when we fail, number one, is we start to isolate ourselves. And so that problem that I had in that business where I didn't have any support, like you just magnify and you multiply that experience of not having support. So when you talk about it, you start to connect yourself to other people. So that's the thing, right? It's like, absolutely. You need to talk about it to connect yourself with other people. You also need to talk about it because you do not see yourself clearly. None of us do. And particularly when you're in a moment where you are feeling less than fabulous about who you are and what your capabilities are, getting an objective view from somebody else can really help you start to connect to your strengths that maybe you're missing. So, I like to give yoga as an example. I've practiced yoga for like 25 years or something like that now. And still, as long as I've done it, if I'm trying to do some sort of pose, I will think my body is in one position. But if I catch myself in a mirror or I'm in an in-person class and have a teacher adjust me, it's always stunning to me how differently my body is oriented than what I think is true. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what talking to people does for us, is it helps them, it helps us notice like, oh, I'm actually kind of sideways. I'm a little wonky here. Like, oh, thank you. You've sat me, back up straight. So talking to other people is a really important aspect of pulling yourself out of the failure. When you've done that, doing what I was talking about with really looking at, am I aiming for the right goal? Starting with the end. What is it that you want to create? If it's a business that you want to create, being really clear with like, okay, well, how many hours do I want to work every week? Where do I want to live? What do I want my day to day to look like? How many people am I interacting with? Do I have employees? Do I have colleagues? Because a lot of times the reason that we failed is because what we were working to create is not in alignment with that ultimate goal. And when you can get really specific about what that success would actually look like for you, all of the steps along the path to get there are going to be more specific, more clear, and more easily achieved. So, I think that's an important part of getting out of the failure experience, like really noticing, like, was this really the right goal? I don't know about that. What?
So true. So true. I want to stick on that for just a moment
Okay.
because oftentimes, again, we fail and we internalize it. We think it's us. But was it the path that you were supposed to go
Yeah.
down? I was just talking to a friend of mine. Her name's Karen. She's open to work here on LinkedIn. She's a transitioning teacher. She kept applying to jobs, applying to jobs, applying to jobs. And then she told me that she took some type of career assessment and it actually had her in a path to entrepreneurship for her personality. And she said, well, maybe I'm failing because this is not the path I need to be
Right.
in. So getting really clearly defined on what your goals are, like you just
Yeah.
said, I think that is so key and crucial. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And I can work in this question that I see from Cynthia. When you don't know what your goals are, it's a great time to get really curious and really tap into your imagination. And, I know a lot of adults, particularly, we get so bogged down in our day to day, like just like hanging on by our, fingernails, trying to like make it all work, that it can be easy to lose and to forget the things that we love, the things that we find purpose in, what we enjoy, what would be an interesting challenge for us. So, a great exercise is to remember yourself when you were a teenager, before you had the ideas around making money or like this life you needed to build, but what were you naturally inclined to? And I don't even mean hobbies. Like if that's it for you, if it's like, oh, I love guitar, that's great. But it might be, what I really loved is, in my friend group, I was always the person that people came to for advice, or, I really loved tutoring kids after school. You can look to your past self when life didn't feel quite as heavy for those clues to what it is that feels very purposeful for you. And that's a great place to start to help you build some goals so you figure out what you should be aiming for success in. So,
Absolutely. And again, getting super clear, Cynthia,
yeah,
what is your version of success? Because it doesn't look the same for everybody. Before
absolutely.
I got really clear on my version of success, I was living someone else's dream. So I was working in a corporate job and, on the surface, looked like I was successful. It seemed like I had it all together. I was miserable. I was empty inside because I was living to someone else's version of success. For me, my version of success is a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more freedom. I want to be able to work from anywhere. I that's kind of what it looks like for me. I'm a little bit more on the freedom side. So for me, it didn't make sense to be kind of stuck in a box. For me, it looks a little different. So I think once you get really clear on what success is to you, that kind of sets you up for those goals, right? Don't you think, Christy?
Great points. Absolutely great points.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I think we forget about it. So often we're looking for someone else's version of success and what that means, and we're chasing
Yeah.
someone else's dream, that Lamborghini, that dream house. But what does success mean to you? It may
Yeah.
mean a log cabin in the woods, right off the grid.
Right.
It
And
looks
there's
different.
actually, so there's another way that you can go about this too, that might be a great way in to try to get clear on like, what would that look like for me? And it's based on this idea that all of us are actually really, really great at being really specific and thinking a lot about what we're bad at. So we overvalue our weaknesses, but we undervalue our strengths. And
Wow.
there's a lot of great reasons for that, like evolutionary reasons for that, even. The reason that we are all here today is because our ancestors, in a much more difficult time on the planet, were catastrophizers. They thought about worst case scenarios, and they made sure that they got enough wood to stay warm, and they, hoarded enough food, and they did whatever they needed to do, thinking about the worst possible thing that could happen. And that is what got us all here today. So there's actually some really interesting science out there about this negativity bias that we all have.
Mm.
And what that means is you don't really need to waste any more time thinking about what you're bad at. You got that. You're an expert in what you don't do well. What you might need to spend some more time with is, what do I do well and what are my strengths? How am I resilient? When I've had past successes, what were the things I did that helped me be successful? How was I resourceful? What am I most proud of overcoming? What were the thoughts that helped me the most? What were the emotions actually that helped me the most create successes? When you start to get clear on things like that, then when you're in this experience of failure now, you have a deep well to go to. You can say, all right, well, I thought I was going to launch this thing. I thought I was going to start this business, or, I thought that I was going to marry this person even,
Mm.
and that relationship has failed. Okay, well, what do I know I do well? Well, I'm great about telling people what I need and what I want. I'm great at knowing myself. I'm great at meeting new people. Okay, so let's use those, right? You don't have to focus on, oh, in my relationship, I should have valued the person more. Like, nobody is a perfect human being. You
That's
are
right.
going to do plenty of things imperfectly. But to
Yes.
get yourself to your goal, try utilizing those strengths that you have, because you're going to get much farther, much faster working with those things than deciding you're going to take your weakest aspects and somehow you're going to grow them to be strong enough for them to, be, I guess, a major component of future success.
I love that. That is so key and so crucial. We think as human beings, I need to focus on my weaknesses to get
Yeah,
stronger, but that is the opposite, guys.
yeah,
Listen to what she just said. Again, take notes. Don't focus on your weaknesses. They're not going to get you any farther. Focus on what you're really good at, what your strengths are, what you're passionate about. But Cynthia is loving this convo and has some more questions. So, are the successes based on job successes or your own personal successes? How do I define the successes? Great question, Cynthia.
it's a great question, and you may not like the answer. Because the answer is that it is completely up to you.
Ooh,
The answer is that your successful life is whatever you decide that it is.
yeah.
And so whether that success looks like, you sell all your belongings, you decide to be a traveling pet sitter, you don't even own a home, and you
Yep.
just go from home to home, in people's houses, taking care of their animals, or whether you decide to, I don't know, become the kinder, more ethical Jeff Bezos, it's really up to you what success looks like. And you can create any version of that you want. And I know that sounds aspirational. I'm going to bring the science back in for a second, because
Yes.
a lot of times I get pushback and I get some cynicism around, oh, you can create whatever you want. Yes, actually, it is a misconception that the best way to figure out future action is to look at what we've done in the past. It is scientifically proven not to be true. There's some really great research done in positive psychology, which is the basis of what I do, around this idea of what's the best predictor? Well, it's actually very simple. The best predictor of future behavior is what people tell us they are going to do. So you can take two things from that. Number one, ask people. You want to know what somebody's going to do, what their plans are, where they're going, where they're going to be? Ask. But also tell. If you have a goal that you want to reach in your life, whether you want to get married, whether you want to grow a business, whether you want to raise, whatever it is, you need to be telling people. That is how you make sure it happens, is you put it into the world.
Yes.
And you give people the opportunity to be a part of your success.
And it allows people to go on that journey with you and support you. Because guess what? I am a huge believer in that. Thank you so much for saying that. I preach, this is something you did not know, Christy, but I preach that daily. I have a notebook on my desk. So Cynthia Nordstrom, I've got a notebook on my desk. In this notebook, I have written a couple of things that are very impactful to me, but some of the things are my goals. Because guess what? When you write down a goal, it becomes you're 5 times more likely, to achieve that goal literally just by writing it down. 5 times. So if you want to make it 10 times, write it down, put it on social media, let the world see it, and then you'll have real accountability. People are going to want to help you with those goals. But then you also have to meet those goals. And you know what? I'm so glad you said that, Christy, because I did that this summer. This summer, it was June. And I said, something occurred to me, and I said, I need 6 weeks to make a life change. I said, I want to get healthy, So I put a post out there, and I said, I'm going to go on a 6-week challenge. If anybody wants to join me, I will be giving up alcohol, exercising, all these things. You know what? I did it. I don't know if I would have been able to give up all of those things and get to that level of success in those 6 weeks if I didn't post it on social media, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Stating your intention, stating your goals is so important.
Yes.
And I have one more step that I think is really important to help people get out of failure. And I know I talk a lot, so I'm going to try to
No, I love it. Are you kidding me? This is
I
fantastic.
always need a good editor. I know this about myself. I find it funny. It's totally fun. But, so what we've talked about so far is that take some time to really mourn that failure, right? Like allow yourself to be human and have that experience. Examine whether or not you were aiming at the wrong goal. Is what you were trying to achieve really in line with what a successful life or business would look like for you? Because there's a good chance it's not. Talk to people about your failure. Allow them to support you. Allow them to help you reconnect with what you're strong at, with what you're good at. Utilize relationships. They're so powerful. It's one of the best ways to improve our overall well-being. All human beings, we are a social species. Even if you don't need that many people in your life, those social connections still matter for you. And then being really clear about not just those weaknesses, but spending time to really explore your strengths, to figure out which skills you already have you can utilize in order to increase success in the future. I use a tool, I won't go into it now, but it's called a success evaluation. And I highly recommend you look that up. I'm not the only person that does them, so I'm sure you could find great information about that. And the last part is that we futurize failure. This is still connected to that idea of us having a negativity bias. Our brains assume is when we fail at something, we are always going to fail at it in the future. And
Ooh.
it's not that your brain is trying to be a jerk. Your brain is trying to keep you safe. And the brain really likes the status quo. So we failed at something. It felt not so great. Now our brain doesn't want us to feel not so great again. So instead, it makes us feel not so great in a different way by telling us we'll never succeed at, X, Y, or Z ever again. These are lies. This is just you can hear it. You can go, thank you, brain. I think we're going to move along now. But, what happens is, again, we have this experience of failing in one thing. We decide that it means that nothing in the future will ever succeed because of one of these failures. And it's a really great thing to just stop yourself when you notice that thinking and ask yourself, is it true?
Mm.
Such a powerful question. I broke up with my boyfriend. I'm never going to find love. I'm never going to find anybody that wants to date me. Just stop and ask yourself, is it true? And if your brain wants to kick out an immediate yes, your next question is, can I really know that it's true? Because the reality is none of us know what's coming. There's really nothing that you can answer, I really know that it's true. You just don't know for most questions.
Yeah.
And allow your brain to begin to consider and to have some curiosity and to look for the opportunity, right? It's like, okay, well, if I can't really know that it's true, what's the opportunity for me here?
Ooh. Pause again. What is the opportunity? So,
Yeah.
there's a book. It's called this. I think no. This is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and he says in the book, with every within every failure exists a seed of an equivalent benefit. So what that means to me is within every failure exists an opportunity to find benefit, to grow, to learn. So it's not failing. There's no such thing as failure. The only thing is true thing of failure is just not trying in the first place or giving up. So it's a seed of a benefit, but we have to.
Well,
How does the seed work?
it
You have to
is,
plant a seed. You have to cultivate a seed. You have to nourish a seed. You have to.
and this is actually how our brain works. Like,
Yeah.
I love, it's so exciting, the brain science and all the scans that we've been able to do for last 10 to 15 years have gotten so complex, and they're providing us such incredible data that we never had before. And so when I say this is the science, this is what I mean, is
Yeah.
that when we are in a place of thinking, what is the opportunity? When researchers have asked people in scans to ask themselves questions like this as a response to whatever the situation is, what they've discovered is that the areas of the brain related to creativity and problem solving are what light up. And
Mm.
what do you need to get yourself out of a failure and into a different experience? Your creativity and your problem solving. So when you can get yourself out of a place of feeling a victim of your experience or a victim of your circumstance, and you can feel active and you can take control of the things that are within your control, asking yourself, what is the opportunity, is a part of doing that. Yeah, I don't know the book Unsinkable, but much of my work and a lot of what I teach is around resilience and around grittiness and how we use those to grow successful, happy lives. So I bet you that book is right on target.
Absolutely. I love that. And I want to go back to this one comment here from our friend from Croatia. She says, I'd prefer saying falling to failing. Absolutely. And I love her analogy there because no toddler who's ever learning to walk, who's fallen, has said, you know what? This isn't for me. This is for
Right.
somebody else. Other people walk, but me, I'm just going to stay crawling. No one has ever said that. There's some point in time in our lives where we start to think of failure as something as something that we should just accept. And,
In
no.
school, that's when. And
Right.
I love school. I love learning. I'm a
Yeah,
total nerd. I love getting all the degrees and all the certifications, but
me
that
too.
is when it happens to us.
Yes. Yes, you're so right. And if we judge people, what is the saying goes? If you judge a fish's ability to climb a tree, it's going to go through its whole life thinking it's
Yeah,
stupid. Well, that's not
right,
true. They're just not designed that way.
right.
So find what you have in your capabilities, what you're designed to do. And part of that comes from finding your passion. You start to find your purpose, but you got to get really clear of what success means to you, what your goals are, and then start learning from these failures and taking them as an opportunity and not as a failure. It's an opportunity. And I know it's hard, Cynthia, going to how Cynthia feels right now. She feels like she's failing. But just think of what opportunity exists within those failures. Again, could you be like my friend Karen, who realized she just may be an entrepreneur, and maybe that's why she's not getting these roles, because maybe the universe is guiding her a different way, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
I
I
think
think
that's powerful.
what Kristen is saying here, she's got it 100% right. The most difficult part of failure is not the nuts and bolts of what happened. I call it thinking traps. It's the thinking traps that our brains get stuck in about what we're saying to ourselves and how we can overcome that. And so I just want to put out there that sometimes part of what I'm talking about today may feel inaccessible. And that is completely normal and understandable. And it's also not a problem. If you're in a place where you just say, I can't think of an opportunity right now, let that be okay. Maybe what you need right now is not opportunity thinking. Maybe you need to spend more time in your mourning period and allowing yourself to be sad about what happened. Maybe you aren't ready to move out and through that experience yet. And there's nothing wrong with that. I will tell you that after my first business closed, through talking to other people, through using that strategy, right, of getting an objective opinion about myself, I worked in management consulting for the next 5 or 6 years because I'm really great at growing businesses. I'd been really great at mine. And so that seemed like a great place for me to go. And I did. I grew hundreds of people's businesses for them as a management consultant, got to experience lots of different industries, lots of different types of business, lots of different business styles. And at the end of that, 5, 6 years, it wasn't a plan, but I was ready to start my next business. And I did. Because I'd learned enough and I'd allowed myself to move through the period, learn the lessons that I needed to get to a place where I had the strength and the inner character to know that I could try again.
Wow. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes. True story. And again, it's so easy. It'd be so easy for you to have given up in 2007, to go from seven figures to nothing, but then
Yeah.
again, rising from those ashes and going to an incredible eight figures. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
you
run
don't
four
even believe.
businesses today. I'm either the sole owner or a partner in four different businesses today in very diverse industries.
Wow. And at what, you could have given up. And again, what disservice would that have been to yourself, for your
Yeah.
family, for the whole world? And all of your clients would not have had that benefit. So there was something that you knew. There was that seed inside of you that had that urge to blossom, urge to grow so profound that it didn't matter how big you failed, because that seed was there. In some capacity, you believed in yourself and knew that you were fully capable of realizing those dreams. That is so profound.
You're
Cynthia loves you, by the way. She says needs. She says, I'll work for you. But you know what? This is so profound and so impactful. And I really hope, again, guys, watch this on replay, because she has said so many powerful things, so many nuggets of wisdom, that honestly can impact every single person. It doesn't matter if you're successful or if you're not successful. Any of us at any point in time, can be one or the other. You can be successful, lose it all. But it's about the grit and the perseverance, right? To keep rising, keep going above, and
Yeah.
keep climbing that ladder of success. Honestly, that's what it takes. It doesn't take knowledge, it doesn't take a lot of talent or skill set. You don't need those things. Those things are beneficial, but it's not going to get you to where you probably want to be. What you need is that determination, that perseverance, that grit.
Yeah.
That's what's going to get you far. Don't
And
you
I
think,
think
Christy?
I do. And I think, I was just thinking about it over our conversation here. This isn't something that I had prepared or whatever, but I think that really the way into that is by figuring out what I was talking about with Cynthia about when you were a teenager.
Mhm.
What were you like? Where did you feel purposeful? I really dislike talking about passions. It's a personal pet peeve. I feel like when we talk about pursue your passion, it's a very like bougie wealthy person thing to say, because most people do not have the luxury of saying, like becoming a rock star because music is their passion. Like
Oh,
that's just
darn.
the reality.
That's my
But
dream.
right? But what is available to all of us is being purposeful in our lives. And the reason that that is true is no matter what your job description is, no matter what the tasks are of your everyday life, you can do something called job crafting, which is something I also talk a lot about, which is a way that you can imbue meaning and purpose into every moment of what you do, no matter how much you hate your job or hate your day to day. It is possible. It is available to you. It's very exciting. And the reason I'm talking about this right now is because if you are on purpose, your purpose is never just me, right? Your
Right.
purpose is going to be related to something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And so when you're thinking about this thing that's bigger than you, what it does is all those thoughts about what people think about me and what I think about myself, they all go away. I don't have time for any of that, all those thinking traps. What I'm thinking about is my purpose and what I'm trying to create in the world. When you are on purpose, whatever like little mistakes or bobbles, whatever failures come along, they're not going to bother you, because what's bothering you is what's in your head. But what you're focused on is outside of you. So that stuff in your head just goes away. It's just not a problem. So
Yes.
think about your purpose. Think about how you serve. Think
Mhm.
about what you can do for other people or what you can do for a cause that's important to you, and find ways to do that every day, because you can do it. I have lots of ideas on that, but I'm gonna shut my mouth.
No,
So
I
I
love
want to make sure I got that out.
100%. No matter how low we're feeling, when we give, it elevates us, right? And I'm a firm believer that success doesn't live in a silo. Success works best on a collective scale.
Yeah.
So, you and I, Christy, we have a very similar goal for 2023. It's actually a
Yeah.
little shocking. Our goal is to help 1,000 people all over the world succeed. And it's so
Yes.
crazy because I had that goal, and I think I posted it I posted it, and then you said, I have the same goal. And I said,
Yes.
well, we're aligned, my friend. But
Yes.
that's success. Success is not just me. Because if it was, I wouldn't be successful. Or if I did become successful, I'd probably lose it all.
Yeah.
Success doesn't work in a vacuum. It works on a collective scale. And that's part of being purposeful, being intentful.
Absolutely.
You have to elevate others and lift other people up to that same level. No matter how successful we get, if we're not reaching our hand back and helping uplift someone else, it's all in vanity.
Yeah.
Don't live that
And
way.
And when we're focused on that goal of how we serve, all of a sudden, like all the garbage we tell ourselves that's getting in our way,
Yeah.
it just disappears. And my favorite example is public speaking. A lot of people are really, really, really afraid of public speaking, and that's because they're having thoughts like, what do I look like? What do I sound like? What will people think? Will I sound stupid? Will I stumble? But
Hmm.
if they're thinking about their purpose, if what you're thinking is, for me today, I so greatly want to help anybody listening here learn about failure, reposition it for themselves, help them find a way out of their own experience. Then, it doesn't matter that, like, where is it? Hold on. My hair is like standing up a little bit over
Oh,
here.
don't you hate that? I know. It only happens on live camera. So,
Right, it's like not behaving today, or like, if I miss my place and what I say, like all of those thoughts about what I think of me or what I'm worried people might think of me go away when I am working in service of a purpose that is greater to myself. So give that a try with whatever you're doing. I think you'll find that some of that garbage, some of those thinking traps will start to lose their power.
absolutely. Power, that's it. Pay attention to where and what you're giving your power away to, guys. Because honestly, we can give our power away to these limiting beliefs and the self doubt all day long. But is it getting us closer to our purpose? Absolutely not, right? And again, it's so easy to fall into that trap, and we all do. We're imperfect people, we're human beings. But at the end of the day, I know my purpose is so much greater than myself. So I put myself constantly out of my comfort zone, and I appear on live and interview people like
Yeah.
Christie and learn something every single day. And eventually, I know that it'll keep piling up and compounding all of those efforts over time because I'm working with intentful purpose, and I have a good reason to, because I want to help 1,000 people all over the world succeed next year. It's no small task. I need help. I need to have an audience, and that's why I'm here. It's not about me, it's about you. And I want to help others just like you do, Christy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so important to, again, what impact are we creating? And no matter how low we feel, because I've been there, when I
I
help
was there
someone else,
last week. Let me just add that in. I was literally
same.
there last week. I just had a setback in something. I have a partner. So my course, Joyful Life Design. I also have a partnership with SUNY schools that's happening next year. I'm really excited because it's going to make all this information accessible and affordable for a different group of people. And I hadn't heard anything from them in a while. I wasn't getting responses to emails. And so what did my brain do? My brain told me they were ghosting me, that they wanted to cancel the course, that they didn't want to have it anymore. I was having tons of anxiety about like, what did I do? Why don't they like me anymore? Because like I told you, that's one of my two thinking's traps is nobody likes me. So I reached out to the dean and I just said that. I was like, I don't know what I did, but I just need you to know that I'm feeling I've been ghosted. Like, why, please don't be mad at me or, whatever it was I said. And, after not getting an email from a couple of weeks, he wrote back in like half an hour. And it's because we all relate to what those feelings are. It does not matter how successful you are. You do not succeed your way out of being human. And so when you can reach out to other people and offer your vulnerability and offer your true self, I can't promise that everybody will be a lovely human being and deal with it well, but you will find so many more people than you would have expected that will really like rush to help you, will rush to lift you up, and will be more connected to you because they will see themselves in what you're
Yeah.
sharing with them.
Absolutely. And Cynthia is already starting to get dialed in of what success looks like to her just because of this talk. So she finds her greatest success in helping others. So, you know what? That's a beautiful thing. As long as you're getting a benefit as well, I mean, we all have to get a benefit out of it. But when we help others, it elevates ourselves, right? So, couple challenges I think for the audience today. Guys, What does success look like to you? Start writing it down. Literally. I know I've said this on a couple shows, but I want to see some DMs. Send me a DM.
Yeah,
Send Christy a DM.
absolutely.
What does
Please
success
do.
look like? What are some of your goals for 2023? What makes you feel purposeful? Right? Maybe going back to Christy's point, what did you do when you were younger that you really liked doing, but maybe something about it told you, or someone told you you wouldn't make a lot of money doing that, or all of these limiting beliefs that other people say. What are those things? Start getting some clarity. And if we have time, if we're out of work, that's actually okay. That's a blessing to take some time for some reflection and to get really clear about what we want. So we're not just hitting the submit button
Yeah.
on different jobs every day. Find that path that works for you based on what it is that you're really good at, what your strengths are. Oh, I'm an empath too, Cynthia. We must, I find that hard. Being an empath, that's, one of the things I've had to overcome, Christy, is I love giving so much. I just want to give, 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 give. So it's easy. We have to find that balance though in life, right?
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
make sure we're also self-satisfied and also self-nurturing so that we're not giving and depleting ourselves.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, gosh, almost an hour-long session. This was fantastic. I could probably talk to you for a week. We could have a marathon.
We will, just offline.
Yeah, I know. Nobody wants to hear this too long, but I no, absolutely. And I think this is, again, such a timely message right now, because at the end of the year, I like to take this time in December to really reflect. What was this year all about?
Yeah.
Where did I fail? What did I learn? Where did I succeed? What did I figure out my strengths were? I
Yeah.
honestly, how old am I? 38? I think I'm 38. 38 years old. And I just realized this year that I actually really like teaching on this capacity.
That's great.
Would I have known that if I would have stayed in my comfort zone? Nope.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I learned. It was by doing something that I honestly was terrified of. And it helped open a door for me that I wouldn't have known existed. A strength I didn't even know I had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to find it, is by creating enough sense of self and enough love for yourself that you can try things, do them poorly, and then decide if you want to do more of it and learn to do it better, or if it's not the right thing for you. But you're going to have to get enough self-confidence to say, I'm going to try it out. And if it doesn't fail, nobody's going to know but me anyway.
That's right. And Cynthia, every day, to answer your question, literally, I could be walking down the street, somebody stops me and tells me their whole life story, or at a bus stop, even better, or anywhere. It's kind of crazy. I think we're like magnets for that kind of thing. So I hear you, Cynthia. But yes, let's get really granular and shoot us some DMs. Let us know, again, what success means to you. What are some of your goals? What are purposeful
Yep, I
about?
respond to every email,
Yes.
every message. You will get a response from me. It's not a bot or anything like that. So let me know how I can help. I am here. I would love for, like Tara was saying, my goal is to help 1,000 people grow gritty and get happy in 2023 so that they can create successful, productive, unique lives.
Yes, let's do it. Together we rise. I love that.
Right.
You can be a phoenix too, just like my friend Christie Ellis, who went from 7 figures to failure to 8 figures and thriving with 4 businesses. She is my new CEO hero. Love
Aw,
this lady. But yes, use her as an example, folks. Be the phoenix, just like Christy. You can and will do this, and 2023
yep,
is going to be your best year of your life. But you first
absolutely.
have to believe it. Have
I
to
am
believe
not
in order to do.
special. Everybody is just like me. You all can do exactly what I've done.
Yes, Christy is special, but even though she says she's not, but that's okay. But yes, anybody can do this. So we look forward to hearing your success stories, and we will see you soon. Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Take care.